Hello everyone and welcome to episode 126 of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host just like every week, Spencer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Benny Merez.
Hello.
And Casey, the babysitter Bloodworth.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. Are you feeling better?
I'm pretty woozy right now.
High? Is that the word?
I guess you could say I'm high.
You're not low.
Yeah, so I had emergency surgery on Wednesday to have my appendix removed. They said their exact words were, so we don't really call this, like, what's the word that they use? Like, it's not like a casual surgery or
Routine?
Yeah, it's not a routine procedure. It's an emergency surgery, and you will be hurting and out of commission for a few days. So I was hurting, and as Casey and Austin and Manny will tell you, I was probably out of commission.
Very much so.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah. So, but I'm back, and we're joined this week by. You might notice that we sound a little different. We're doing it old school style with Matt Kling. What's up, Matt?
What's up, guys?
Yeah, it was really funny. So, we had the podcast all ready to go, and I hear a knock at my door. And Casey and Matt are here. I was like, "What are you guys doing here?" They're like, "Spencer, we're recording the podcast in 30 minutes." They're like, "He forgot. He's high as he can be." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we're doing it over Skype." And they're like, "Oh." It's like, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." So.
And then 5 minutes later, Manny calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm on my way. Have you guys eaten dinner?"
Yeah.
It seems like, the information that was on Skype should have been more easily.
Well, in all fairness, when Spencer was planning this podcast, it was the day after his surgery, so he's probably at his highest.
Also, I just said anytime that we have a guest on, we do it via Skype. That was just a blanketed rule.
Yeah, that's true.
Certainly, I was never told that.
Well, right.
So.
But we're happy to have Matt here. If Matt's here, that means, as everybody knows, that means we're doing a podcast on one of the great decks of Magic history. And we're going to get into that. But before we do that, let's talk about our sponsor at Oasis Games. Our sponsor, you can check them out at oasisgameslc.com. You can get 15% off of your first order by using the code CCMTG at checkout. You can get 5% off every order by using the code Would That Be Good.
All right, so we're doing our hashtag Always Improving. We're each going to tell you how we improved at Magic this week.
Or, before we do that, we can talk about our Patreon at patreon.com/CCMTG.
Yeah, that's pretty big. We do love getting money. Probably more than a lot of things.
You can go on to Patreon. You can become a patron of our show. There's a lot of different reward tiers. We're really close to a few really exciting things. We've already got t-shirts out, tokens coming soon. And the more money that comes through that, the more things we can offer, the more content we can offer, expanding our video and article library. It's really exciting.
Yeah, every dollar we get, we use towards making this show better. Every cent helps. Every cent, changes the show just a little bit.
Yeah. Just everything is appreciated. So, yeah, like I said, check that out at patreon.com/CCMTG.
Yeah, and it helps us keep always improving, which brings us into our next segment. Hashtag Always Improving. Why don't you explain what that is, Manny?
All right, so Always Improving is our Twitter outreach program. You can tweet at us, anytime. We'll answer your questions, talk to you, all that stuff.
So that would be good, and that's what that hashtag is called. Would that be good? So
is it?
Always Improving
is
it's something that we talk about every week.
It's okay. It's funny because he did this last time he was introducing the hashtag Always Improving segment.
Yeah. So
I don't use hashtags, so whenever I think hashtag, I just think of our Twitter outreach program.
Yeah, so
you're okay, dude.
Hashtag Always Improving is just it is something we put on Twitter. You can post on Twitter. Post it with your Would That Be Good. Explain this is something that you did to level up, and it's also the segment of the podcast where every week we talk about what we did to get a little bit better at Magic.
Right. So this week, I've been out of commission for, for 5 days.
A couple days, yeah.
But today I played a ton of Magic. I watched a ton of Magic. I'm pretty sure we played Magic with Austin when he was here.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
But this week, something that I was trying to do was brew a lot more. And some of the decks that I looked at that I brewed were, I named them While on Drugs.
Sure.
While I was brewing them in my Gogger's folder.
Was one of them just man, this feels great?
No. I made sure that I wasn't loading up decks that I brewed while on opiates later.
Oh, sure.
So I looked at some of the decks, but like some things I found really interesting. I brewed Rug, Bug, Eldrazi, just different things. Looking at a ton of different deck lists. But one thing that I improved at this week is I tried to play a lot of decks that I know the team has been playing a ton of. Things like Jedi Jund and Grixis White, those decks, as well as some of the collected company decks. So I just wanted to stop playing things that people didn't have
It was off everyone's radar.
Yeah, well, I feel like I already know how good Teamer Black is. Like, if I want to play that deck at a tournament, I can do that. But it doesn't help anybody around me, and, I don't get any feedback from anybody about the deck. So I'd rather, play something that people can give me feedback on and things like that. And I came to the conclusion after, Matt Kling and Quentin Pierce, just how good that Jedi Jund style deck is. And it's, a deck that I'm very confident in playing moving forward. The other thing that I did this week that I'm going to be doing more of is taking notes. I'm going to take detailed notes about what decks I played against, what cards were good against me, things like that, and share them with my friends.
Very cool.
This last week at Magic, I sat down and we all played rounds of Moto together, and I thought that was very fun and very informative. I feel like I got to really see how you guys view the game and how you process it, and I thought that was very helpful. I liked that a lot. It was especially nice because my thought processes were not that far off from yours, and I feel like not too long ago that wasn't the case, so that was very nice. Another thing I decided to do is probably stop playing Black Red Dragons. I really liked this deck the last couple of weeks, but at my last PPTQ, I felt like I had very little control or interaction in my games, and it wasn't something that I was particularly striving for. I want to have more interactive games, whereas I can maybe pull games out because I have, I'd say, a better play skill than most of the average players, and I feel like in the earlier rounds, I can really bank on that. So I'm going to try and play decks that are more challenging.
Sure. Yeah, have an opportunity to outplay your opponent, right?
Right.
So there's certain decks where it doesn't matter how well you play, your win percentage is not correlated to your play.
Right.
Yeah, I feel, I am very interested in, the way Black Red Dragons has evolved from, even a month ago. I was looking at some of the lists.
It's very interesting. They're always changing quite a bit.
It's very different, and I feel like there's more synergies and things like that as the deck has gained popularity. I think it has become a better deck, but I don't like having my win percentage dependent so much upon drawing one card, and I don't and that's what I feel like Black Red Dragons has with Dragon Lord Kolaghan.
Yeah, and it's
Storm's Fury.
Sorry, thank you.
And it's also just the payoff isn't quite there, right? It's a powerful card, and it will usually make you win, but it's not Goblin Charbelcher. It's not just game over when it shows up.
Right. There's a lot of times.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, I mean, it can be.
Sometimes you can just have no board state when you see it, and it gets Disdainful Stroke, and that's all she wrote.
And it's a 5/5, whatever. It's just a bad Thunder Mahokite, which is better than a lot of cards, but it still leaves something to be desired sometimes.
What about you, Casey? What did you do to get better at Magic this week?
Well, it was something that occurred to me. I've been back in the gym for about the last week and a half, working out again, and I realized something that basically everybody wants to be in shape, but nobody wants to get in shape. And that's something that I realized that I was kind of doing in Magic. There are certain things I wanted to understand certain ideas better, why people played certain ways, why people played certain decks. And you're never going to get that understanding without putting your nose to the grindstone and just trying to play the decks. So when I heard about people playing this Hardened Scales deck, instead of just laughing it off, I took it through the ringer, I played it, got my butt kicked for hours yesterday playing this deck. But I learned, what the appeal is, why people play it, what would inspire somebody to play it, things like that. And I needed to do more things like that instead of just dismissing ideas, being willing to put in the work to address my weaknesses in Magic.
Matt, as somebody who plays just puts their face into Moto and doesn't leave for hours and hours on end, and you play tons of different decks while you're doing it, when you see a deck like Green White Hardened Scales, what do you do? Because it shows up on Moto in 10 seconds after it shows up on air.
I mean, it certainly did. Actually, I've been playing against Hardened Scales for the last couple of weeks, actually, so it's been even before the GP today. And yeah, I mean, mostly I've been playing 4-Color Rally online a lot lately, and that matchup's actually not that good. and I'm certainly not prepared to dismiss a deck based on any one thing. I think that you basically should give some kind of credit to ideas, especially if they're showing any amount of success. There's no reason to just outright dismiss something without even having given it any thought.
Right. But, like, do you jump on with those people to try them out usually, or?
It really depends. Oftentimes I will, but I didn't in the case of the green-white Hardened Scales deck, although I do give that deck a lot more credit than most people did going into this weekend.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's go on to the power rankings. So every week on the podcast, we break down a format, whether it's standard, legacy, vintage, which we don't really do. I don't know if we've ever done it. We probably will one day.
Maybe vintage champs later this year.
Yeah, something like that. Or modern. We break it down. How do the points break down, and what are we doing here, Casey?
Well, basically, we look at the top 16 or 32 of whatever events we have for the format we're dealing with. In this case, it was the top 32 of the Legacy Open in Philadelphia. And we get 6 points for first place, 5 points for second place, 4 points for top 4, 3 for top 8, 2 for top 16, and 1 for top 32. Add up all the points, see what decks have risen to the top, which ones have performed the best, and give you the top 5.
Cool. So, coming in at 5th place today, we have Infect, coming in with 6 points. Matt, what does this Infect deck do in Legacy?
So, the Infect deck is kind of a combo deck. It oftentimes plays like a fish deck, is the way I would like to put it. It's basically just plays like a couple of threats and then tries to disrupt your opponent a bit. And then eventually, if they don't play around it, you're just going to kill them out of nowhere. Semi-similar to Splinter Twin in Modern, honestly. But yeah, I think the combo is much more backdoor than people will expect it is.
Yeah, I think that, like, I don't know, I think of it like as a, like, hyper aggro deck. Kind of like, does that make sense? Like, when I think of Infect, it's it's combo-esque. It's like synergy aggro, because, like, they kill you with creatures, and spells combined. They have, like, basically, it's just like, imagine if all creatures ever printed had double strike, and that's kind of what you're playing against with.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to them playing like an Isamaru or whatever on turn 1 when they play Glycerol.
Right.
Yeah, it's just that it's so much better with Giant Growth than Isamaru.
Right. It also just turns every pump spell into, like, this insane thing. It definitely reminds me more of Heroic than it does of, like, I don't know, some weird combo deck. Because it plays out much more like that.
I think it plays out a lot like that in Modern, but I think in Legacy that is right, in that it's mostly like, I'm going to get in, just chip shots, and then if you're tapped out, you're dead.
Where it's a lot of times just like 1-1-1-1.
That's how it is in Modern too, isn't it?
Sometimes you play a lot more pump spells in Modern.
Well, and there's a lot of...
The game's really
it's a removal heavy.
Modern.
Where in Legacy you're playing Brainstorms and Dazes and Force of Wills, and, like, you know, in some cases, like, a Wasteland to crop rotate for. Like, it's a much more interactive deck. Not like, it's not Rug Delver, where it's like trying to interact with every play you make.
Maybe I just haven't played the deck. I played against the deck a ton.
Sure.
In Legacy. I can honestly say that I've never casted Invigorate in my life.
Well, then you're missing out.
Well, I do think that a lot of the players that first pick up the deck, too, do start to play it that way because, you know, they've seen it played that way in Modern or played it that way in Modern. But I think if you see people that have played Infect for a large amount of time in Legacy, you kind of stop playing it that way.
Yeah. If you watch the Tom Rosses and the Todd Andersons of the world, like, you would never even know it was a combo deck half the time.
Alright. What is this deck's good and bad matchups, Matt?
Well, they say that it has a really good Miracles matchup. I'm like 0-5 against Miracles with this deck, but I know that's not, like... I mean, in my head, I realize that it can't be a bad matchup. Like, it's actually got to be a pretty good matchup, but... so that's one of the ones you're trying to hit. It's also got pretty reasonable matchups against a lot of the other slower combo decks, like Show and Tell. Your bad matchups would be anything with, like, a lot of removal in it, like Grixis Delver is a pretty bad matchup for you. Rug Delver to some extent, depending on what their sideboard looks like.
Sure.
Yeah, how many bolt effects they can really get up to.
I was going to say, like, any Punishing Jund style decks are probably...
Yeah, certainly those would be a bad matchup, but that's a little corner case, right? Because those decks aren't as popular.
Yeah, right now, I would guess that Sultai is still pretty good against you, though.
No, I actually think that's supposed to be a really good matchup for Infect. It's
Yeah.
supposed to have a pretty good matchup against the Abrupt Decay decks.
Really?
Yeah, because, like,
most of my interactions against the deck have been playing Shardless, and I'm pretty good against it.
I mean, Hand of Torok is going to be pretty good, but Inkmoth Nexus being so hard to interact with is really the hard part.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because like they can just sit on their Invigorates and their Berserks until they're ready to go off with it.
You gotten a chance to play against this with Grixis Delver a lot?
I have not, no.
No? Well, we will rely on these two for the knowledge of that deck then. What comes in next, Manny?
Next on the list with 9 points is Miracles.
Casey, what is this deck? How does it win? Why do I hate it?
It makes you... I mean, they think they win by you sitting at the table until you, like, want to die.
Right. Yeah, you win. It's a control deck, so you win by your opponent losing their will to live, or Jace the Mind Sculptor, whichever comes first. Sometimes, if you really need a quick win, you have Entreat the Angels to kind of win out of nowhere.
I, like, never seen that.
Yeah, it happens. But it's usually, like, you don't ever want to cast it. You cast it when you're under pressure. And then it's like, on your end step, make 5 Angels, kill you, untap, kill you. But it's a deck that wants to feed everything into their counterbalance, Sensei's Divining Top, soft block, because a lot of things in Legacy have very similar 1 to 2 mana costs. So you're able to just, as long as you can keep a 1 and a 2 on top and keep plenty of open mana, like it's really tough for your opponent to ever really resolve a spell.
Didn't the Joe Lisette version basically only win with Vendilion Click for a very long time?
Yeah, well, Joe Lisette
they always had Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, Joe Lisette actually plays the most aggressive version of Miracles. He plays like sometimes as many as 4 creatures. And, Snapcaster Mages, Vendilion Clicks, Ventures, things like that. He plays like blue-white wizards
so
almost.
He's really trying to get there, like, eventually.
Right. Yeah, he actually does play Cavern of Souls in the deck too, which is pretty great in the mirror.
Yeah, it's truly great in the mirror, because you really don't want to leave in any amount of like Swords to Plowshares, even knowing that he has, this ridiculous 3-creature build.
Well, and he has Caracas to go with it, right? So it's like...
Yeah.
And so it's really tough to kill the Vendilion Clicks
Yeah,
or the
I
Ventures.
think the majority of the time that I watched Joe Lisette play this deck, I think that Reed Duke talked about like how much he liked Vendilion Click as the win con in this deck too.
I think Reed Duke usually plays the creatureless version, has 0 creatures in his 75, just wants to like lock you out even further with Blood Moon, play more lands, and then just really grind you out.
So this the when I'm talking about it was like when Reed got onto the deck, like during the Blood Moon innovation time and things like that.
Way back in the day.
Yeah. And I mean I think now like Miracles has become more streamlined again.
We see it pretty consistently in our power rankings.
Well, I mean, not just that. Like, I think that people just play more. I think that usually you'll see some number of Vendilion Clicks and Entreats, and that just wasn't always the case.
Yeah, I mean, there were a time where there were 5 different Miracles decks, right? Like, anything from like Helm of Obedience combo to the Blue Wizards.
If I were to write down a Miracles list, it would probably be within 4 cards of this 25th place deck by Jeremy Fion. Like,
but even with that, like the 5th place deck has Monastery Mentors and Snapcaster Mages in it.
Wow.
So I mean, there is still variety, but you're right, it is settling down some. Almost everybody is playing a couple of creatures. Almost everybody is playing Entreat the Angels.
So I think that the different variants of Miracles are not necessarily that one's better or worse, or even as much as playstyle. It's really just a metagame call. Like, as the metagame shifts, you can play more or less creatures.
Yeah.
I actually do think it has a lot to do with playstyle. I wasn't really going to touch on it, but I think that, like, Joe Lisette is not a fast Magic player at all. Like, he's been known to go to time, like, with a lot of different decks, not just Miracles. So, like, having the beatdown strategy is actually important to his playstyle, where somebody who like is more comfortable playing much faster, making your top decisions much faster, it's not as important. Like,
I mean, I think that that's true to an extent, but I still think that there are times and places where each one can be better. I don't think it's necessarily I don't think you necessarily should just learn to play with creatures if you're going to go to time all the time. I think you should learn to play faster.
Certainly, but I do think that that does influence, like, playstyle does influence these last 4 or 5 cards a lot of the time. More than metagame, because Legacy it's so tough to metagame for.
I'm seeing something interesting. So I just looked at a few lists, and there seems to be this slot here. This one has 2 counterspells, and it seems that some people play 2 Flusterstorm counterspells or Spell Pierces. What would be the reason to ever play Spell Pierce in that slot in this deck?
Probably a little bit better in the mirror, because you want to be able to counter their Jace the Mind Sculptors, which Flusterstorm can't do. It
also can't counter Sensei's Divining Top or Counterbalance.
I see. Yeah. It seems like the counterspell version is the version that I would play, but
Well, the other factors in place are if you're running like Mentor's main deck or anything like that, you want your spells to be a little bit cheaper. You also want to interact in the early game.
This one has Mentor and it's playing Counterspell.
Interesting. See, if I were playing Mentor, I'd be more inclined to run things like Spell Pierce because you only want to interact on the earlier turns, oftentimes.
Rich Callie's 4th place or 5th place deck list is playing Counterspells and Mentors and Snapcaster Mages. So, like, he's got a full 5 creatures and 2 Counterspells instead of playing any Spell Pierces.
How do you beat this deck? What's the combination of things that you do to beat it? Everybody knows that Shardless Bug is good against this deck, but like, is that it? Is that the only deck that beats this deck? What keeps this deck in check?
Abrupt Decay is very strong against it. Lands is very strong against it because you can win the game without casting a spell, which gets well under the counterbalance trick. Like, they still have Swords of Cloud.
That's a bit of a that's a bit hyperbole, right?
I mean, you don't always win the game without casting a spell, but you can, is what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, what are they going to do, right? Counter your Life from the Loam?
Well, the problem with the matchup, actually, it is actually a favorable matchup for Miracles, especially post-board. Like, game 1's a little bit rough, but post-board, you can easily lock them out of the game. Like, I mean, things like Rest in Peace and Blood Moon are obviously very good against that deck.
I feel like if there was a reason that lands would be good against it, it's because it can get under their lock.
Well, so that's the thing, though, is you can't actually, for the most part. Like, because if you just, like, if you set a counterbalance in play with a 3 on top, right, that's going to counter any Corrosive Grip things they have, and then you just switch it over to a 2 whenever they cast, like, Life from the Loam or Punching Fire. I mean, obviously it can get trickier, right, if they have,
this one plays, like, Molten
Vortex. Molten Vortex is interesting, but they're going to be warding in Wear Tears against you anyway.
Yeah, because of your Mox Diamonds and Explorations and things like that. I mean, it's not a great... I think it is slightly favorable for Miracles, but the fact that it is so favorable at game 1 probably, like, gives you a reasonable shot. Or just any really fast combo deck also can...
Yeah, Miracles is going to have a problem with really fast combo decks. Like, Storm is actually not that good of a matchup for Miracles, especially pre-board.
Yeah, which, like, intuitively you would think would be decent because everything in the deck costs 1 mana.
Right.
But in practice, like, so you don't always have, like, counterbalance. You don't always have top into counterbalance into, like, a Force of Will to survive that turn.
Right. That's the difficult part too. Is that oftentimes, like, even the turn you set down the counterbalance, like, unless you just have it on top already, you're just going to lose the turn game that turn.
Right. Exactly. And it's so easy for them to test the waters with a probe or a duress or something, so you're not really getting much out of them.
Cool. Coming in at number three, we have lands coming in with 10 points. I know that, Matt, you once said this was the hardest deck you've ever played?
I don't think that I said that about lands. I mean, it is a very difficult deck to play, but...
you did say that about lands when the deck was kind of new. I think it's a little bit... It's not
as,
I think I was playing, not as weird as
I was playing a very interesting version, I think, when that happened. I was playing, like, Intuitions and a bunch of other different things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that version was a lot worse.
Well, what is this deck? Why don't you explain it to the listeners who aren't as familiar with Legacy or this deck?
Certainly. So lands is basically a deck that's going to try to kill you with mostly lands. They play, somewhere in the area of like 40 lands, something like that, right?
I don't think it's that high anymore.
This one plays 34.
34, sure. So they play mostly lands. It's going to play Life from the Loam Engine to generate card advantage.
Crop rotation.
Punishing Buyer as well to generate card advantage. And most of the time they win with a Merit Liege token off of... copying their Dark Depths with a Thespian stage.
Okay. Casey, what are the matchups like for this deck? What would entice you to play this deck?
Having things like Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale and Maze of Ith are really good at locking out creatures, and the Punishing Buyer versions are even better than that at locking out creatures. You could just basically never play against a creature for the whole match.
Yeah, playing Delver against lands just feels like my worst nightmare ever.
Right, and like decks like Jund and Shardless, like, it's really tough for them to outgrind this deck because everything keeps coming back.
Actually never played against this deck ever.
Keep doing that. Yeah.
Actually not one time.
It's not a very popular deck. But
it's very expensive to build.
Yeah,
the cards are hard to find.
Deck.
Yeah, and for some reason, like on Cockatrice, people don't tend to play it still, which is pretty nice because it's an extremely expensive deck. Like Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale is like $700. Like, there's a bunch of super expensive cards in this deck, so it's not super common. You're not likely to play against this. Like if you have like a Legacy weekly tournament, something like that at your local store.
So to say, I've never played it at an SCG, even like Legacy events like that we've done at Oasis, where we have like every deck proxied. Like people just don't pick it up.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it is difficult to play. I mean, it's not something you can just pick up and just go.
Yeah. When the last time you played in a Legacy SCG, I don't think the lands was quite popular yet. Like, it was coming around, but it wasn't like... Now, I think you would expect to play against it once in a tournament.
And I think the people who do play lands, and for obvious, financial reasons, they like to play that deck a lot. Like, they're very familiar with it. They're very good with it. They know exactly what to do in most matchups.
Yeah. It's a deck that is basically, long story short, it's very good against fair decks for the most part, kind of bad against combo decks.
Yeah, coming in next we have Grixis Delver. Manny, what is this deck? Why do you love it?
Well, it's the business, number one. You slam a Delver, and then you win. Or if that doesn't work for you, you play Delver, and then you play a Gurmag Angler, and then you win. It's amazing. I mean, you have some number of young Pyros, you have access to all of the best tempo cards in those colors, and they all come together beautifully.
So, the green in this deck is basically non-existent anymore, right?
Yeah, it's just Deathrite Shaman activations, and like you almost never really
and
want
Ancient
that.
Bridge out of the board.
Yeah, it's a very minor like green splash.
Yeah.
That's why people don't even.
You wouldn't call it a green splash.
I mean, people like there have been other like 4-color Delver decks where people played all kinds of things.
You'll see like one tropical island in there,
exactly.
something.
I think most of these now currently, this deck has exactly one tropical. So like, and if it gets wastelanded, like it's not a heartbreak.
I was gonna say this is almost the same deck as it was before, just with like less Cabal therapies. It's just like the other Grixis decks weren't really playing Deathrite Shaman for there was 4-color Delver, and then there was Grixis Delver.
Right.
And now I think they've just combined into a more streamlined, better version of the deck. I don't think that the green is really necessary, and like you don't use that outside of Deathrite Shaman very often.
No, very.
But Deathrite Shaman is still like insane in the deck.
Yeah, I really don't recall the versions that I've seen that were Grixis without the Deathrite Shamans, but that doesn't mean they didn't exist.
I think the very first.
Yeah, the very early versions didn't have Deathrite Shaman.
Someone, who was it? It was somebody like an SCG grinder.
We actually, I think the last power rankings we did had a Grixis deck that was Deathrite Shamanless.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That played 4 main deck Stifles.
Yeah, I feel like Deathrite Shaman brings a lot to the table for that deck.
Yeah, cause certainly the first version of Grixis Delver that you and I were testing that you were interested in had 4 Deathrite Shamans, right?
It did, yeah.
I think it's correct.
I think it was pretty quick in the evolution of the deck. People started playing Deathrite Shaman, but the very first version was Deathrite Shamanless. And then somebody decided. I think it was kind of funny because it wasn't Deathrite Shaman that put people in green with their Grixis Delver decks. It was the Edric Spymaster of Trust, like random as a one of. They're like, attack you, draw my deck.
The young Pyromancer, that card, Deathrite Shaman, Cabal Therapy deck.
Yeah. And then
Cannon Grace played it at an SCG that he said he loved the deck quite a bit. I know the deck was popular in other places.
Yeah.
I think Deathrite Shaman's just like huge in this deck. I think the Gurmag Angler is huge. This is like basically the only Delver deck that I would consider playing.
I think Rug is always still a great variant.
I would never play that deck though. I didn't say that it's the only good version. I said it's the only one that I would play.
I see.
Sure. It was the best version by far this week, as far as performance. This is actually one of the Delver decks that I don't really like to play. I don't like to play Delver and Deathrite Shaman together. I feel like it gives you an awkward game plan. But they're both very powerful cards, and I think that like if you're okay with switching gears on the fly to accommodate that, like it's a powerful deck to play.
Matt, how happy are you to play a deck with 4 Ponder, 4 Brainstorm, 4 Attacks, and Probes? Does it make you feel good about life?
It really does. I mean, it makes you really in control of your own destiny, which is nice.
Yeah, this is like I like a lot of things about this deck. Specifically this first place deck list, second place. It is actually first place. He actually did win the event.
Yeah, it just hasn't updated on SCG yet.
But Noah Walker's first place list is I would consider playing this exact 75. I thought his Belfast tricks out of the boards were sweet. I love this deck, and I would totally consider playing it. So, coming in at number 1. The long standby in Legacy, Eldrazi.
What? It's a classic, really.
Yeah, at this point in Magic, you just say that, it's been around for years.
This is a creature type that's, like, not ever going to go anywhere, sadly.
Well, so my question is, this week it put up, 7 of the top 32, correct?
Yes.
So that's like a pretty staggering percentage. That's like 25% almost. And there's basically no way that it was 25% of the field.
There was actually only 8 of them going into day 2.
Oh, wild.
Sure. So
What?
7 of those 8 made top 32.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many people were in day 32? Or day 2, I think it was 64.
I can look really quick.
For these SCGs. So that means, like, they finished well above average.
Oh, yeah. Far above
Let me
average.
go to the both of these pages. So, for the day 2 metagame breakdown, it says that there were 64 players, and I'm sorry, 9 of them were on colorless Eldrazi.
Still, very, very high win percentages for those players.
Yeah, to convert 9 out of 64 into 7 out of 32 is insane.
Yeah. So my question is, though, so I think we can all safely agree that Eldrazi is too powerful for Modern, right, and should be banned. It's pretty easy to envision the scenario where Eldrazi becomes not good enough in Modern, right? You just ban the Temple or the Eye or whichever, and it's probably fine. Let's say that this deck becomes too powerful in Legacy. Where do you start with the bannings?
So, I actually don't think this should be banned in either format. I've already done an entire podcast on Make Modern Great Again. They should start with unbannings and bring the power level up to Modern, because I think we will see this in Legacy, that Legacy is a self-correcting format because the power level is so high, and because there's such a large pool of cards. The problem with Modern is they've weakened all of the strong strategies. They've just done so much. I mean, even something as simply as banning Ponder and Preordain makes it hard for blue decks to compete against something, so that they can find their answers. Birthing Pod decks, they could play Silver Bullets and they could warp their deck to beat these decks. Jund decks could they were just had these solid game plans, and they just everything that they've done to take decks out of Modern has made it so that if they ever print something strong, it just becomes the best deck because the power level of Modern has dropped so much.
I agree with mostly what you're saying. I'm going to ask, though, you play a little bit of the Eldrazi deck in Modern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many cards do you think that they would have to unban to make that card a contender instead of the dominant presence?
Well, I mean, apparently it has a terrible matchup against both Splinter Twin and against
So the matchup against Splinter Twin didn't look terrible. It was about 50-50. And that was with the version that wasn't the blue-white version, playing Path to Exiles and everything. I would assume that matchup was probably slightly favorable for the Eldrazi deck. The Bloom deck was terrible, though, in fairness.
Yeah.
That matchup was virtually unwinnable with the way that the
Yeah.
deck was constructed at the time.
So I would say that, I mean, I feel like in Legacy specifically, I was all about the banning of True Name Nemesis. I was like, this card ruined Legacy, it needs to go, it needs to go, it needs to go.
And then by the time you had finished that speech, it was no longer in the meta.
No, I mean, Miracles is now the monster it is because of True Name Nemesis, right? But, I don't know. I think that Legacy will fix itself, and I think that the way to fix Modern is actually just to unban a ton of cards.
You may be right. I mean, I do have faith in Legacy's ability to fix this situation, but,
I don't know. I'm on the fence about this in Modern specifically, because I just played Blue-White Eldrazi for the first time, yesterday or the day before, and it felt insane. It felt
I played it the day that Matt made it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it felt better than any deck I've ever played in Modern, as far as just power level again versus what I was playing against. So, it would have to be, some real hardcore stuff to make other decks contend with it. I don't feel like a fair deck will ever contend with it.
Yeah, if I were to ban anything from, I mean,
the problem with unbannings is that if we make unbannings in the wrong way, then we end up with everybody just taking their glass cannons and firing at each other, right? And see who wins. And that's not going to make for a fun
I
format.
don't think that unbanning Jund and Birthing Pod does that though.
I don't think that does either, but I don't know that those decks
And I don't
can
think
compete with
creating
the
a
other
blue control deck or even Splinter Twin does that either.
Certainly Splinter Twin doesn't. I don't know that you could create a blue control deck though that has a reasonable matchup against these things. Especially if the format ends up being that torn, right? Where you got Jund on one side, you have this Twin deck on the other side, this Eldrazi deck on the other, this Birthing Pod deck here.
Yeah, I mean,
how could you possibly build a control deck to beat all those?
Well, we were just talking on the way here about how we think that the Eldrazi deck in Legacy probably has a bad Miracles matchup, right? So an unbanning of Sensei's Divining Top probably makes that a deck in Modern, right?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, with counterbalance in the format, but yeah. I mean, that would certainly do it, but that seems like it opens up a whole new can of worms.
It's a can of worms. That's
yeah.
Right. Rite of Flame and Seething Song go a long way too, but that's probably a can of
Rite
worms.
of Flame is probably not the right way to go. The Seething Song probably gets unbanned with all the other cards that we talked about. Anyway, I don't know. The fact that Eldrazi Mimic is seeing Legacy play is like...
Well, so let's talk about this Eldrazi deck in Legacy a little bit. So it's basically just a variant of the old Stompy decks that we've seen before. You know, like this shell has been played out hundreds of different variations.
This deck looks nothing like those decks. This deck looks like a clone of the Channel Fireball deck.
Well, it's like it's got like Thorn of Amethyst and Chalice of the Voids, right? Like it's
Trinospheres on the sideboard, right? Oh,
Yeah.
no Trinospheres. Sphere of Resistances, though.
Sphere of Resistance. Yeah, so it's the same like soul land and the Chalice of the Void plan that we've seen in the past. The difference is your finishers are just much better, right? Your finishers are a lot more powerful in the form of like Thought Knot Seer, which is also disruption, and like Reality Smasher, which is just incredibly hard to deal with. It's a lot better than like Mog Catchers and Goblin Realm Masters and those things, right?
Steel Hellkites.
Yeah, and Steel Hellkites and
garbage like that.
Mono nonsense. But I that being said, I felt like the Stompy shells have always been very good. Like I think that playing Chalice of the Voids and Thorn of Amethyst and things like that are, you know, like Stax has been just very powerful in every format where it's been played. It's really hard to actually prevent your opponent from winning the game till turn 90, you know. But a deck like this only really has to prevent your opponent from casting spells till turn 5, which seems fairly reasonable.
Very true.
So you think that it might need to get banned?
I think that there's a chance. I mean, it's something that I'm willing to look into more before I make any rash decisions, but I mean, the track record for the deck right now is very high. I mean, there were probably a fair amount of really good players playing the deck. Like, obviously, Jerry Thompson, a fantastic Magic player. He's probably going to do well with most decks anyway.
Yeah, he got his 20th Open top 8 this week. So.
Right. So it's not something that I'm not calling for the banning right now, don't get me wrong. I was just saying, like, in a hypothetical world where the Eldrazi deck does become too good, is there even a card that they could ban from it? Like, I think it would take at least 2, maybe 3 cards. It's so redundant, that's the thing. Like, unless you just ban, like, Thought Knot Seer and Reality Smasher.
I don't like the fact that Wizards is, like, printing these really sweet Magic cards, like Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time, and then just banning them 3 months later. I don't enjoy it. I think that it's, like, leaves a horrible taste in my mouth.
Well, so the reason that that's happening is because they're not printing these cards for eternal formats, you know what I mean?
But...
So you're just saying, like, before, you wish there was some kind of a stopgap measure, right? Where they're like, hey, let's see what this card
That's
will
why
do.
my plan of, like, have 5 people whose job it is at Wizards is to, like...
I mean, you'd probably be okay with 2. Just 2 guys doing that.
Here's the question, though.
Start with one.
Is it
You can't start with 1.
Is it actually worse to have these cards banned in Legacy and be fun to play with and, like, reasonably good in Standard, or is it worse to just have them be bad in every format?
No, I'm saying that I just think that if I'm with the Coast... Like, I don't expect Fist to affect Modern or Legacy this way. Like, I think we're taking one little event and then blowing this out of proportion if we're already talking about bannings.
But it's something that's probably going to snowball, right?
Possibly.
Knowing the Magic players, there are... I mean, I haven't checked Twitter today, but I'm sure that they're
I don't even
already
mean that,
calling for bannings.
Like, Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch, right? Where these Eldrazi decks just dominated. So that's, like, very much what they're doing now in the meta everywhere. Like, all over the planet, Eldrazi are crushing everything.
It's tough to say. I do think that...
And that's what they do. They're all Eldrazi.
Yeah, they're...
So, Legacy is... extreme. Like, I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that there's somebody in the middle of 5-0ing a league right now with some moat deck in Legacy that's just crushing these Eldrazi decks. So, like, there's just, like... There's so many options in Legacy. I'd be surprised if little old Reality Smasher was enough to, like, warp the format. But
That's my thought, too.
it wouldn't, like...
If
it's
I
not
were-
impossible.
If I were to start somewhere in Legacy, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you have access
It
to things...
looked dog awful when Jerry was playing in the finals. Like, his deck looked bad.
Interesting. So I saw Jerry play one match today, and it looked very good. Or it was yesterday. It looked very good in that particular match, but I did see somebody else playing it where it looked awful. So
Yeah, it looks like... I don't know. Like, we'll see. I have been known to open my mouth and say stupid things, and I just don't want to do that this time, and I don't know. If I were to start somewhere, it would be with Eldrazi Temple in Legacy rather than Ayavugan in Legacy, because Temple has, like, the real like mono upside in Legacy, as you can play multiple, like, all the other soul lands have drawbacks.
So
and
this is actually where I differ, because I agree that I think Temple should be banned in Modern, honestly, because you can't draw, like, 2 Ayavugans and have it be good. But I think in Legacy you can draw, like, Ayavugan in any one of your other 8 soul lands and then it's just busted.
Sure. I mean, the decks don't even play 4 Vugans in Legacy.
Right. Yeah, I understand. I mean, they would though, right? If they had Eldrazi Temple banned, I assumed.
Yeah, I mean, I would start with Temple if I was going to start somewhere, but I just don't. I don't like that mindset. I don't want to like go too far into that.
Right. No, I agree. Like I said, I'm certainly not calling for the bannings. I was just. It was more like a thought experiment. Like,
Sure.
what do you think it would take to make the deck bad if it were too good?
I think in Modern, I think you should unban. I would just unban a lot of things. I've heard people saying that. I've actually heard people say that the no ban list Modern is actually just a great format. Like, people have been playing it and talking about it on Twitter. They said that Dredge is a little too good.
Interesting.
Which is interesting because I don't know how you win. Because you don't have.
We have Dread Return, right? That's the card that's banned right now that matters.
Yeah. So you just play like
How do you win?
Grizzlebrand?
Oh, sure.
Flame Kinzella?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably some combination of those two, yeah.
Sure. But yeah, I would say that, like, something like Ancestral Visions, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Ponder, Preordain. I probably wouldn't unban Mental Misstep.
That feels like more of a bigger problem than a solution.
Yeah.
It's like
But yeah, that's how I would start. I would start with unbanning first. I don't actually see a problem with... Because, like, here's the thing, is... I don't like Wizard's argument. Like, all of us thought Wizard's argument for banning Wild Nacatl was one of the dumbest things, right? Like, we want people to play more green 1-drops. And it's like, well,
which ones?
now no one's going to play any green 1-drops. We want people to play more diversified 4-drops in Jund, so we're banning Blood Red Elf. Well, now Jund doesn't see play. And when it did, like, people just played, like...
You just stopped playing 4-drops for the most part.
Yeah, just stopped playing 4-drops altogether. And so... I don't like their argument that we want to diversify the format by banning things in big formats. And I think that we've seen that it doesn't work. But we have seen when they unbanned land tax, the land tax changed the format for a couple weeks in Legacy.
It saw. I mean, it didn't. I wouldn't say change the format, but it definitely got some time in the.
Yeah, it got some time, and like, I don't know. I just think that like all the times I've seen unbannings, it's been more helpful than the bannings have been. And I will say that the only time that I like really enjoyed bannings, we'll get into during our next segment. So, let's go into what we play and why, and then we can get into our training grounds. So for me, I'm on Jedi Jund in Standard. I have a list that I have kind of combined the things that I like from what I've seen from Quentin and the decks that are doing really good on Moto. Jedi Jund is like the best deck on Moto right now also.
Do people know what you're talking about when you say Jedi Jund? I know we do because we've heard it, you refer to it as that.
Yeah, I was just talking about Abzan Red.
Yeah, I mean Mardu Green, right?
I mean, that's the thing is that everybody calls it something else, and like
I think
everybody
we need some kind of standardized like system for this nonsense. Because
like
I
the
can't
deck,
take
right?
it anymore.
Yeah, so it doesn't have that many Crackling Dooms in it. It only has 2.
Oh,
But
you were
yeah.
playing Mardu Charm, which I think crosses the threshold into
What?
You can't call it not Mardu.
Well, you play Abzan Charm in the Mardu Green.
Oh my
deck,
gosh,
though.
let's not have a 10-minute conversation about the
Mardu-
name of this deck.
Mardu
It's
Green.
four color, no blue.
All right, that's so much better than everything else.
Mid-range deck, I've really been enjoying it. The reason that I'm enjoying it, and this is what I kind of, when I was deciding like what deck I wanted to play that other people were playing that I could gain some knowledge of, the things that I wrote down are like, what are the best cards that you've play tested recently? And my answers were Roast and Chandra. Those 2 cards have just been really good lately. Kalidas is another one. And then I was like, okay, so what are my options? I thought about Jeskai Black for a little while, and then I was like, I just haven't played enough Sea Drain now. And Sea Drain is also really good with Chandra.
Sea Drain is also just really good.
Really good. And Goblin Dark Dwellers was way better in this deck than the other decks that I tested it in. And yeah, I've been really impressed with everything. I started off with 4 Crackling Dooms, and man, that card is just like not as good right now as it was like 3 months ago.
Yeah, with less Abzan in the format, it is worse. It's pretty poor against Rally and great against Abzan, which was much more relevant 5 weeks ago. I agree. I think this deck is pretty well positioned. I don't know exactly like the right configuration of removal, but I do think it's a very good deck.
My starting point was actually a Moto deck list that I saw that had no Anafenzas, and I really liked that.
Really?
Yeah, and so that's the starting point I went off of. Playing a couple more creatures than them. I do like that Quentin was playing Soulfire Grandmaster for a little while there. I don't know if he still is, but I really enjoyed the card, and it's in my deck.
Yeah, I've been pretty over still Fire Grandmaster in the deck, honestly. I switched those out for Sylvan Advocates, and I've been pretty happy with those
I have
instead.
4 Sylvan Advocates already.
Oh, and some number of Soulfires?
I have 2 Soulfires, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I had in the list that I was playing also. Not the list we were playing yesterday, but the list I've been playing online. And I think it's pretty good. This is a deck that I would heavily consider. I would play probably either this or Rally. Or, if I can find something else, literally anything else. But I think both of these decks are really good.
Chandra's, actually just great.
Very true.
So, yeah.
What was the deck Quentin Pierce was playing at the last PPTQ?
This deck.
That's what I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah, I'm all about Jedi Gen right now.
Should I play the main deck Hollowed Moonlights to get Matt Kling over here?
No, Quentin decided those were terrible. I told him before the tournament they were terrible, but he didn't want to listen to me.
Yeah, I'm not.
And now nobody does that, so...
Yeah.
Matt,
Although you were playing scared of him yesterday when we were playing Rally Online. You were like, well, he might have the main deck Hollowed Moonlight.
I mean, you gotta play. You play around it if you can. I mean, I would never play around it if it was gonna make me lose the game.
You'd never play around it game 1 like a sane person? What?
No, I mean, I've had people main deck Hollowed Moonlight me multiple times.
What? Who's doing this? Who are these people?
I don't. I had
It's a
I had
great
a
question.
Red White Tokens player that main deck Hallowed Moonlighted me on response to a rally, and then died the very next turn to another rally.
Oh.
So
well, you're on Rally right now, right, Matt?
yeah, absolutely. I actually think that one of my biggest flaws in Magic is that I switch decks too often, and I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to stick with Rally until rotation. So
Cool. Well, so do we want to talk about Modern Legacy? I'm on Blue White Eldrazi in Modern.
I would be shocked if we weren't all on Blue White Eldrazi, right?
Yeah, I'm boycotting Modern until I have to play it this summer. But I'm not looking at it, not thinking about it. I'm sad that I bought a playset of Tarmogoyfs 2 months ago. Just pretty much just ruining my life.
Yeah. I'm also still on Oops All Spells on Legacy for what it's worth. So
Delver.
Yeah, I would probably play
it seems even better now, by the way.
It seems really good. Yeah.
Well, you might have a hard time beating a Chalice, right?
I don't. Well,
Would I?
I'm trying to think
Can
of
you
one.
win without casting a Dark Ritual?
You could. It'd just be really hard.
That's true. That's true.
Chalice on 0 seems unbeatable. Chalice on 1, maybe not.
Yeah. So what do you Chalice for in 0? That's what I'm curious about.
Because don't you have Lotus Petals and something you actually need
Yeah, you have Lotus Petals.
to
You
start
don't
your
need
chain?
them. You have
Maybe it's
you
worse
Spirit
than I
Guides.
think.
What?
You have Spirit Guides.
Oh, that's true. So
I have a lot to get you going.
There's a lot of Spirit Guides in that deck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's 8.
So definitely two Chalices is literally unbeatable, right? Chalice on 0, Chalice on 1.
0 and 1 would be the end of the game.
But that's that beats almost everything that exists. 2 Chalices, can't beat 2 Chalices isn't a threshold.
But
that
you
just
also have
build a
Thorn of
deck on.
Amethyst, and I'm not sure that you would have to really try to construct a draw that beats a Thorn of Amethyst as well.
Yeah, it could be. It actually could be worse for me, not better for me. I mean, I do get to win before they do all of that a lot of the time.
Yeah, if you're on the play,
It's- yeah,
certainly
play
it's
draw
going to be good.
dependent, for
Yeah.
So, I would still be on Old Reliable, Rug Delver, or maybe Storm, just kind of on a similar token, try to get under them.
I have actually no idea what I would be playing in Legacy right now.
But it would probably involve Brainstorm.
I imagine it would
Possibly
be.
not. Honestly, this colorless Eldrazi deck is looking pretty appealing.
You love Storm more than most people love anything.
Yeah, I like Storm. I wouldn't say that Storm's my favorite deck or anything.
I wouldn't even say that he loves it as much as Casey.
Yeah, Casey, I think Casey likes Storm more than I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I would say so.
He has
you're pulling
literally
something out of
has
your
a
pocket that's- Does he have a Tendrils of
Oh, man,
Agony in
yeah,
his
he's
pocket?
got a
He keeps grape shots.
great
in his
shot in his
wallet.
wallet.
Oh, that's really good.
Oh my gosh, that thing has gotten so much love.
Yeah, it's just just for good luck.
He's just got a grape shot, throwing it at Manny right now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a true fact.
Well, let's go into this week. We brought Matt Kling here to talk about great decks through the ages. This week, talking about Splinter Twin.
You make him sound so old.
I mean, he's a historian.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you're like, yeah, he comes on for all the Great Decks of History podcasts. I'm like, I guess I'm the Magic historian.
That's what we invite you on for.
I feel like you should
Excellent.
have a
That's
small
what
set.
that was literally. I was like, hey, you're
Yeah,
I'm putting the podcast. I'm like, hey, but you have to come on for the great decks of history,
Yeah.
and you were like, yes.
Yeah, that's your job here.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm disagreeing to it or that shouldn't be my official title. I'm just learning this now. That's all.
I think officially to be any kind of historian, you are required to have some sort of mustache.
I was thinking more
Dude, when he
tiny.
grows his mustache, it's kind of weird looking.
I was thinking more tiny, wire rim bifocals that he's gonna pull out for this.
Yes.
All right. somebody ship Matt some bifocals, and let's talk about some Splinter Twin. So, we're gonna kind of go in order of things that happened with Splinter Twin. So, Splinter Twin was in standard for 18 months?
Was it that long? Because New
Would it
Phyrexia
not
was
have
in
been
the
24?
next set, so it should have only been like a year, right?
9 months.
Right.
What?
Standard for 9
you're
months.
talking about- so,
Splinter
Deceiver
Twin
X
and
Arc
Deceiver
was
X
not
Arc.
in
I
the
see.
same set.
I see. The combo was alive
Right.
for that long.
There was a Kiki Jiki, Pestermite, Modern deck.
Extended.
It was
way
extended.
back.
Extended.
Modern
Thank
hadn't
you.
even been invented yet at this point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I know that deck existed. I don't know that it was all that popular, though. Was it?
So I think it was more like rug mid-range variants in Modern, and then they would side in to some kind of Splinter Twin Kiki Jiki thing. Like they would have the combo in their sideboard a lot.
Huh. I don't know. It seemed like...
I think there was a Kiki Jiki Pestermite deck in.
Because I know that
Extended.
Elves was, like, oppressive and extended in that era.
What? No, it wasn't.
No, it
When
was a lot of
Lorwyn was
fairies.
What?
new. When Lorwyn was new.
Dude, this is way after that.
Yeah, this is far after that.
How long was...
Well, because we're obviously in New
how long
Phyrexia
was-
standard right now, right? Like in
Well,
this
right, but I'm saying,
particular
like,
time.
I'm saying the Pestermite Kiki Jiki thing. Like, was that still happening?
That
how
was-
long?
well-
how long was Lorwyn and Kamigawa?
Elves
extended
wasn't
together?
Elves wasn't an extended deck when we were playing extended. Nobody was playing it.
Huh.
The extended decks were like Fae and Jund and Cobblade.
But people were playing Kiki Jiki in that point?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I guess Kamigawa was just an extended longer than I realized.
I don't think they were playing Kiki Jiki. I think they were playing Splinter Twin
Well, no,
in the extended.
Right, I'm saying, like, I
they,
know
they
that...
played a little bit of like right before the printing of Splinter Twin. Like the Kiki Jiki Pestermite thing was an extended combo.
Right, I just think, how played was that deck?
Not very played.
That's what I was saying. Like, how
But it-
often was this Pestermite Kiki Jiki thing actually happening?
But some number. But I don't know why this is a
It-
point. Why
I mean,
we're
it
really
was-
in the conversation for that.
It was rare. It was rare, but not like not insanely rare.
Fair enough. I was just curious, that's all.
Okay. Anyway, so Splinter Twin existed in this world where the closest thing to ever happen to this combo was Pestermite Deceiver X Arc. I believe that there might have been a little bit of Splinter Twin. No, I don't even know that even that was an extended. Anyway, it was this very, very small thing that people knew about. I know that like Jesse from 60cards.com was probably the only person talking about it. But so Deceiver X Arc gets printed, and people talk about this combo, and the majority say this is like a 1/4 creature. This is stupid, like and you like have this bad enchantment in your deck. This will never be a thing. Well, in comes Michael J. Flores. Do you know who Michael Flores is, Manny?
I hear the name all the time.
He is a Magic player that used to like write for what was the magazine called? I mean, he used to write for Daily MTG, SEG.
Yeah,
He's-
I don't know.
Huge.
Did he write for, like, Inquest, like, way back in the day?
I mean, he wrote for everything. He very big innovator in deck building.
Is he not active currently?
He currently does a podcast with Patrick Chapin called
Okay.
Top level.
Top Level Podcast.
Does he still write for TCG Player?
I don't know.
He's around. He's...
Yeah, he top 4'd the PPPDQ with me. He beat me in the Swiss with Mono Blue Dragons.
The
I think the
Which
point of this
event?
is that it would be very easy to find him if you Google
Yeah,
him.
yeah, anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, so here's the deck list that he came up with. The Alex Sittner actually won a PTQ with 4 Deceiver X Arc, 2 Inferno Titan, 1 Pilgrim's Eye.
That's my
by
favorite
far the
part.
most questionable part of the deck. Yeah.
4 Seagate Oracle. Man, what I would give for Seagate Oracle in Standard right now. 2 Jace Belrin, 4 Jace the Mind Sculptor, 4 Into the Royal, 3 Mana Leak, 4 Preordain, 2 Spell Pierce, 4 Splinter Twin, and 26 lands. So it's like a blue-red control deck that for some reason he would ever consider putting a Splinter Twin on a Pilgrim's Eye to infinitely block things.
That's not true. That didn't happen.
That is literal. Alex said he did it at the PTQ.
Gross.
And so he wins a I want to say that it was an SEG Open with this. That night, Julian Ontiveros, somebody who I play tested with back then, came to my house with it sleeved up, and we played until about 3 a.m. And I was playing Cobblade, and I could not beat him. Like, actually couldn't win. With the best deck in the format by, like, so much. It was crazy. Like, I could not win. Then there's some reasons for that. One of the reasons is I had not played against the combo before, and I just was like, alright, I'm just going to leave up this Dismember, and then he's like, tap down your land, you're dead. You're going to leave up this Spell Pierce, tap down your land, you're dead. And it's like, it was crazy. And like, if I didn't, like, do things like that, the deck just wasn't built at that time to even combat this combo. It wasn't built with it in mind. Like, you had things like Into the Royals in your deck, and like
It's just soft to it.
I think that the Cobblade decks at those times were playing like 4-day Judgments as removal, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, things like that. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, you had things like 5-mana Elspeth in your deck, and like or Gideon, like things.
Yeah, it was Gideon more.
Gideon,
I don't
like
think Elspeth was printed yet.
So you literally
I
just
guess
could
it
not.
was. Yeah, it
You could
was.
not interact with the combo.
oh
like,
yeah,
at all.
Like
It just
you were
happened to
dead to this deck. The deck, obviously, by the end of the night, we had come up with a deck list that could be this deck. But those who didn't put in the testing came to this awakening. After this, though, this isn't the deck that took off. This isn't even the deck that abused it the most. There were Grixis variants that came out with like Inquisition of Kozilek and things like that to stop their make them discard cards before comboing off. But the deck that Matt will tell you, and that I would tell you, was the best version of this deck that only got 30 seconds of sunlight.
Yeah, I think there was maybe only one SCG Open, maybe 2 at the most.
Ali Antrazi wins an SCG Open on 6/26/2011 with Twin Blade. Deck has 4 Deceiver Exarch, 2 Myria Angels, 4 Stoneforge Mystic, 4 Jace the Mind Sculptor, 1 Batterskull, 1 Sword of Feast and Famine, 1 Sword of War and Peace, 3 Splinter Twin, 3 Dismember, 2 Dispel, 2 Into the Royal, 2 Spell Pierce, 4 Preordain.
Man, what a standard format. I want to play this deck really badly now.
This deck, nobody could beat it. Like, you had to, because they didn't have to tap out because they could activate their Stoneforge Mystic. If they did tap out, it was for Jace the Mind Sculptor. And, like, if you tapped out against them, they just play Deceiver Exarch, put a Splinter Twin on it. Or they just put a Splinter Twin on their Stoneforge Mystic and got it.
This deck sounds more powerful than like a modern deck.
This is more powerful than modern deck.
I mean,
That's crazy.
There's
Approximately half
literally
these cards are banned.
Yeah,
now.
Stoneforge Mystic, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Splinter Twin are all banned. And Preordain.
My mind can't believe that you're telling me this was real.
This was a standard deck.
Yeah, I don't believe you. You're lying. You're lying to me. This is a joke. This is a sick joke on me because I don't know.
So after this tournament, both Stoneforge Mystic and Jace the Mind Sculptor got banned. So we move on to where to go to next, and there's 2 more standard decks that we're going to take a look at. One of them is the deck, probably my actual favorite deck ever. It's like up there, if not my actual favorite. I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I just think that I wish I could go back and try that deck now that I have such a love for both of these cards.
So we're going to talk about Twin Pod.
What? Pardon me?
So this deck was 4 Lotus Cobra, my actual favorite Magic card of all time, 4 Nest Invader, 4 Birds of Paradise, 3 Deceiver Exarch, 2 Acidic Slime. I played 3 Vengevine, 1 Urbrask, 1 Phyrexian Metamorph, 1 Frost Titan, 1 Inferno Titan, 1 Worm Coil Engine, 3 Birthing Pod, 3 Splinter Twin, 4 Preordain. So this deck was a pod deck that played Deceiver Exarch and Splinter Twin.
It just goes to show you how powerful Ponder or Preordain is, right? Like, people were playing in their Birthing Pod Splinter Twin decks. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah. I mean,
to be fair, like, you played Ponder in it in Bant Pod and Rug Pod the next year, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying that type of effect. Like, you would never play Serum Visions in your Malaria Pod deck, right?
Oh, heck no.
because that card's just not good.
Yeah. But so this deck was basically the same premise. It was like this very powerful mid-rangey deck with like Birthing Pod and Titans and Lotus Cobra that you could ramp with, and these Nest Invader tokens that get left over, and then if they tap out against you, they die. This deck obviously evolved and became a staple of the format, evolving very differently from the deck that we have in front of us. This one stayed for months and months. All kinds of different things came out of it as the Birthing Pod decks evolved. And then there was Straight Blue-Red Twin, which Matt ended up playing. And the key card in this one that we were going to talk about is Shrine of Piercing Vision. Matt, do you remember what Shrine of Piercing Vision did?
Yeah, I do, actually. So it's 2 colorless for an artifact. 2 generic, rather. And then at the beginning of each upkeep, or whenever you cast a blue spell, you can put a counter on it. Then you can sacrifice it to look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of counters on it, and then choose one of them and put it in your hand.
Yeah, and the card was called, I think Sam Black called it Demonic Tutor.
So it was definitely that, a lot of the time in that deck. Oftentimes by turn 5, you would have 16 counters on this thing.
Oh,
so,
wow.
It was...
So this deck list was 4 Deceiver Exarch, that's all of the creatures, 4 Ponder, 4 Preordain, 4 Gitaxian Probe, 1 Mental Misstep, 4 Mana Leak, 2 Into the Royal, 3 Dispel, 2 Dismember, 4 Splinter Twin, 4 Shrine. This deck was like...
4
business.
Shrine.
Yeah. The Shrine of Piercing Visions is definitely the, like, one of these is not like the other.
It was actually, like, probably the best card in this deck.
No, I agree. Like,
why does that no
Scry
longer see
16,
play?
draw 1 is powerful.
Because you have better dig spells now.
Okay.
And this deck played, 12...
58 cantrips?
Yeah.
Right.
12
So, like,
cantrips.
you cast that on turn 2, then on turn 3, you're like, Ponder, Preordain, Gitaxian Probe, Preordain. Like, that thing has a lot of counters on it all of a sudden.
Right.
Where, like, it's tough to, like, really go off like that in Modern with just all blue spells.
Yeah,
Sure,
with Sleight of
okay, I
Hand
see.
and Serum Visions.
Yeah, like, you can do it, it's just why would you want to?
Yeah.
That card has certainly caused some bad beat stories, though. Like, I've had situations
Yeah,
where I
think you had one for, 32 that missed.
No, I may have had that. I don't remember that one. But I think the worst one that I ever missed on was, one that was, 12, right? And I'd flashed into Deceiver Exarch end of turn, and I have 3 lands in play, and I had the Twin in hand and everything, and I'm like, okay, pop it for 12, and did not hit a land in the top 12, and I was like,
What?
that seems so unlikely.
But yeah, that card, so this is how Splinter Twin, these are 4 different decks, all of them standard decks. All of them we'd give a lot to play with in other formats at this point. 4 Ponder, 4 Preordain, 4 Gitaxian Probe has Casey
That's just a good time, yeah.
foaming at the mouth.
That's just how you win games of Magic.
So obviously this deck rotates out, and Modern becomes a format, and it becomes.
What year did Modern come around?
Well, we'll get into that as Splinter Twin won the first Modern Pro Tour.
2011.
It was. Oh, is it not sitting here? 2011 Pro Tour Philadelphia, by someone named Samuel, and then this deck was a very different Modern list than we see 2 months ago, right?
Yeah, no,
So,
night and day.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever actually played against it after this, Manny.
But interestingly enough, it only plays 1 lightning bolt.
Yeah,
Which I think is really funny.
yeah. Well, that's because you would rather play Fire Spell in that format.
Sure.
So the deck is 4 Deceiver Exarch, 2
need to kill those empty
Kiki Jiki, 3 Pestermite, 2 Spellskite, 2 Dispel, 1 Disrupt Ring Shoal.
Sure. I mean, it's just a great card.
3 Fire Spout, 1 Lightning Bolt, 2 Pact of Negation, 4 Ponder, 4 Preordained, 4 Remand, 1 Sleight of Hand, 4 Splinter Twin, 26 lands. Casey, what
Man, 26 lands is kind of shocking in this deck, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of... I think that... I know that the first Modern tournament that I played against Splinter Twin played much less lands, and it also played...
Spencer, this only plays 23
It plays
lands.
23, yeah.
23 lands, I apologize.
So, yeah, that makes way more sense.
Regardless, one of the things that I noticed about this is, the original renditions of this in Modern actually played things like Faithless Looting. And Actually, that might have been right after the printing of Snapcaster
Well, it
Mage.
has to also be after the
No,
banning
so
of Ponder
Snapcaster
Preordain,
Mage was
right?
already legal in Modern. Was Innistrad, and this was like Pro Tour Innistrad, basically.
Oh, okay. So it was right after the bannings.
Yeah, it had
so
to be
like,
after the banning of Ponder Preordain.
yeah, exactly. So like, there was no reason to play a tempo strategy when you could combo on turn 4 every time.
Yeah. So this deck wins the first Modern Pro Tour. Splinter Twin has now been one of the most powerful strategies in. I believe it was in fact powerful in Extended. I believe it actually was like the best deck in Extended after Jace, because Jace was banned in that format also.
Yeah, Jason Stoneforge both got banned and extended as well at the same time as they did in Standard.
Yeah. And so it's now been the best deck in Standard. Matt would say that Blue Red was the best deck after the Jace bannings, right?
Yes.
And now it's won a Modern Pro Tour. Shortly after that, we get Ponder and Preordain are banned, and Jund becomes very good, and the deck kind of falls off, I would say, until one day some person decides. I actually don't know which is first. So is it Pro Tour Fate Reforged first, or is it would be Pro Tour Fate Reforged next, right?
Pro Tour Born of the Gods is before that. But that one was not
way
won
before.
by.
Well, I just want to talk about this deck becoming invented.
Oh sure.
And we get innovations again in Rug Twin. So now people are adding Tarmogoyfs to their Splinter Twin decks. In case you, before the podcast, this is your favorite version of the deck.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, because the best part about playing Splinter Twin is that your opponent is just in this impossible situation where it's like, I can't tap out because I'll die, and I can't not tap out because I'll die. Where like playing Tarmogoyf really drove the crux of that issue, where like you're being attacked for 4 every turn. Like you don't have that long to just sit around and do nothing. You can't just wait until you have all of it before you start casting spells. So I'm going to make you cast spells, and then I'm going to kill you with the combo. But like so often you would get in so much damage with your Tarmogoyf that they were just dead to Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt by the time they decided to do anything.
Right.
And Remand really does so much work in that kind of situation where they're, turn 3 terminate, Remand, go. Just like you just got to keep laying it down.
Yeah, just keep down. So like once you
And dig you closer to your combo.
And that too,
exactly,
yeah.
You just got them coming and going with this deck. That it was just a lot of fun. It looks so bad on paper. Like I thought when I saw the deck, I was like, "This is a travesty." Like I don't know why you'd ever play this. Like your mana is just so much worse. Then I played the deck, and I realized that like nobody ever played around it like effectively. It felt like so it just got so
when
many.
I played the deck, I thought
it's the exact same theory as the Twin Blade deck, right? Like it's literally just the bad version of that because we don't have Stoneforge Mystics.
Right.
Yeah, and I thought that Scavenging Ooze was like this thing that was crazy.
Yeah,
in this
the
busted
deck. Version of Tarmogoyf.
Yeah,
That's what it always is.
Yeah, and I really like the Flame Slash for the Tarmogoyf mirrors. It seems so good.
Yeah, this deck was just this innovation that's like, I mean, we see it later that we're going to do with like Grixis Twin and like all kinds of Delver Twin and like all kinds of different things that people were doing to innovate with this deck in Modern. But I want to take a look at the deck from Pro Tour with Fate Reforged that it won that Pro Tour and how different it is from the deck that won Pro Tour Philadelphia. We have 4 Deceiver Exarch, 2 Pestermite, 3 Snapcaster, 2 Vendilion Click, 2 Cryptic, 1 Dispel, 2 Electrolyze, 1 Flame Slash, 4 Lightning Bolt, 1 Peak, 4 Remand, 4 Serum Visions, 2 Spell Snare, 4 Splinter Twin, 24 lands. What in the world? This is so different.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're like full on, like almost in blue-red control territory with this deck, where like you're not like really going all in on the combo. You have plenty of ways to win without comboing. Yeah. You're a very interactive deck, really just like comfortable playing any role in any matchup.
Yeah, I mean, more than one person's died to those Vendilion clicks.
Oh, yeah,
They're
many.
so good.
So, is this this is just blue-red control with like this weird win condition, right, Matt?
It's more of a tempo deck than a control deck, I would say. You're certainly not trying to win in the very long game, and you're not going to be able to hold them off, past turn 8 or so. But you certainly you control the game enough to get in several chip shots with your mediocre beats, and then eventually, if they tap out, you can kill them with the combo. If they don't, then you get to kill them with Snapcasters and Bolts.
In our last Modern testing, when we were testing this style of deck, like how often did we just win with Burn?
Yeah, I mean it's probably like more than 50% for sure, right?
Yeah,
I mean, especially like towards the end of Splinter Twin's time, like people were winning with Keranos. people were playing, like, starting to even play Keranos in their main deck, like, all right, let's get comfortable, like, you gotta tap mana sometime, like, you're under the gun at this point.
Yeah, so so Matt, let's move on to kind of just talking about, just kind of gave you guys a ton of deck lists, a ton of information. Matt, what made Splinter Twin a great deck with so many different innovations? I mean, you put down here a huge percentage of it is people just not knowing their role.
Yeah, absolutely. We've brought this up a couple times now and talking about the different lists, but people just having this, when you just have this sphere of resistance on against them that they don't have against you, it's like
for free.
It's like
a deck building. Yeah. It's like a deck building, not even a deck building cost. It's like
it was just like
the opposite of that. What's the opposite of a deck building cost?
It was this unexpected, at least for me, unexpected feature of the deck where like your opponent just never cast spells no matter how many they had in their hand.
I'll go to discard to hand size.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, turn 3 rolls around and they start just, almost shutting down where they're like, welp, I knew it was going to end like this.
The other thing that made the deck really powerful and easy to innovate with is it's such an easy combo to just slot into just about anything, right? Like, it really doesn't take that much deck building cost.
I played Volakut Twin.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's just so easy to just be like, Deceiver Exarch is like, it's a fine creature, whatever, and I'll throw in some Splinter Twins there and just get it.
Yeah,
and then we definitely rationalized our way into thinking the Deceiver Exarch is a fine creature.
Well, I mean, like, I mean, this is something that I actually did. I just put the Splinter Twin combo into a Volakut deck. Sure. And then, Splinter Twin on a Primeval Titan literally wins the game in Volakut anyways, so...
Sure.
That's something, and you would think that, back then... It's like, haha, that's cute, but that's basically what happened in Modern later on. I mean, we did it in POG, we did it everything. We did it in everything.
Right. I mean, it wasn't really a real deck, but there was the deck that Austin Geltz was trying to play, the Collected Company into Deceiver Exarch,
and the
Helios. That was a deck that Jerry Thompson lost to on coverage.
Yeah, I mean...
the Collected Company twin deck that, put in a...
Yeah, the Pilgrim and the Exarch, untap, or, use the Pilgrim to get the Splinter Twin, untap, cast Splinter Twin, kill you. Where it's like, what just happened to me? My opponent was playing some kind of green-red, mana dork deck, and then I died to Splinter Twin. It was the weirdest thing I ever saw.
Yeah. I mean, it was a minimal deck-building cost to just have these things in your deck. And, some people, there were versions of the deck that were Bounding Krasis, Tempo Twin decks that were just Bounding Krasises, and I mean, that deck could still exist technically if you just wanted to play Pestermite and that, and then some Kiki Jikis and some E-Witnesses. And this deck sounds sweet. There's just not a huge deck building cost to doing it, and it just makes it impossible for your opponent to play the game they want to play it. So what prompted the deck to evolve in Modern, or even Standard? And I think both of them, for me, bannings were huge. The metagame became a little bit better against the script combo versions, with things like Abrupt Decay and Illness in the ranks being printed. But, I mean, metagames, you would think as the metagame changed, this deck would, fall in and out, but instead it just changed with it. And that's only true of great decks. That's not true of just every deck.
Yeah, I mean, this deck was very adaptable. It went from having Ponder and Preordain and all these cards in it to, instead of a deck like Storm really fell off quite a bit without those cards. Splinter Twin was able to just keep on trucking, right? It took the actual banning of Splinter Twin to get the card out of the format.
Yep. And I'm not even convinced that Blue-Red Kiki Jiki is the worst deck you could be playing in Modern.
I had a dream that it won the Modern Pro Tour before the Modern Pro Tour. I thought it was super funny when I woke up.
Yes, that would have been hilarious. I mean, it wouldn't be unprecedented. I mean, semi for a Pro Tour, right? But I remember the banning of Cobblade, they banned Stoneforge and Jace, and then Cobblade won the very next tournament.
It was so funny. It was at a coffee shop watching some poetry reading, and I get a text that's Cobblade just won the SCG, and I laughed out loud during this poetry reading, and everybody turns to me, and
it's about famine or something.
I'm sure it was.
A huge jerk.
But yeah, there's just the deck just kind of moved in and out, and I think that it has to do with that deck building cost that we talked about, this minimal thing that had to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you
would think playing 4 bad enchantments and 4 bad creatures with like
more than 4.
But the
It's like
thing is,
6.
like 8 slots is just not that many to dedicate to something like this. Like that's why you can play like a straight up control deck or an all in combo deck or basically anything in between, right?
Right, because these 8 slots and like they just give you so much flexibility that like it's only 8 cards in your deck, but it's your opponent's entire deck has to play around it.
And like 6 sideboard cards.
Right. So you just like
Rending Volley. That was in everything that played red.
yeah, people played red to play Rending Volley. Like
Yeah, you had to.
I mean that is one incentive to play Tarmo Twin over something like Twin Blade, right? Is that like cards like Rending Volley and Combust or whatever don't
Yeah.
hit Tarmo with.
was pretty silly.
So, what was your favorite version of the deck? We'll start with you, Matt.
Twin Blade,
Twin Blade?
yes.
Just, you gotta play Jace, Stoneforge Mystic, and the combo?
Yeah, I mean the combo was just like added value. I mean, Coblade's my favorite version of everything. But if I can figure out a way to make this Eldrazi deck into Cobblade also, we're gonna get it.
Just go get Ghostfire Blades with your Stoneforge Mystic.
I'll probably still get Wizard's Jete, but
Yeah.
Casey?
For me, it would be Tarmo Twin, just kind of for the same reason. Like if I'd ever played Twin Blade, I probably would like it, but I just was before my time.
Yeah, for me, it's Twin Pod. Like, Lotus Cobra.
Oh my gosh, this card again.
Lotus Cobra, man. And Birthing Pod, like,
Lotus
I fell in love with... I think that's actually just why I didn't like Modern Pod, is because it was so different from this deck.
right.
Like, it was this
understand
value
that
deck.
feeling.
What?
I completely understand that feeling. That's why I could never play any of the modern Twin decks or anything like that. I'm just like,
Yeah.
this isn't what I'm used to.
Yeah,
I think I've heard you say Lotus Cobra every week. Like, just in life, being your friend for the last 2 years. You know how many times I've seen a human being play that card? Never. Not once. It can't be that good.
I've
He
played
doesn't even
both.
believe it exists.
Yeah, I don't... This isn't a real card.
It's a myth. You can turn one an Emerald with Lotus Cobra.
Oh, well.
In Standard,
well,
even.
then.
Yeah, in Standard.
Oh, that's insane. My favorite build is probably Grixis Twin. I think the removal is very, very good there. I like it a lot.
So, what... Was the deck too good? Like, we're talking about all these very different decks, and, like... Was it too good? Did it need to be banned, Manny?
I don't think so. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I used to lose to that deck as much as the next guy. Sometimes you get it, 3 rounds in a row online, and you're just like, man, this is my life. But I think it played a very important role in the meta, and I'm very sad it's gone. And I'm very sad that I don't get a chance to really master it or play it more than I did.
Yeah, I thought that it, like... I think that... It's funny, like... A lot of the arguments that I hear about it is like, oh, it was, like, too good, like, everybody just played it, and it's like... Does anybody say that about Delver in Legacy?
I think the problem...
They don't.
No, like
Legacy has these staples that, like, will exist forever, and people are fine with it. Why aren't they okay with that in Modern?
I think part of the problem with...
It's because it's a Pro Tour
It's a
format.
casual format.
Yeah, that's
Really
honestly
comes down
that
to.
is what it is. Like you look at like modern decks at large, like what people's favorite modern decks. Like if you go to a store modern tournament, you might play against like 5 decks you've ever seen before, and there's 18 decks you've like or with cards you've never heard of before. You know, like people really do come out of the woodworks to play modern because we talked about it on this show before. Like, oh, I have this casual deck that I've been playing with my friend. It's not standard legal, but I can cut these 2 cards to make it modern legal, and then I'll take this to my store's modern event. So people, I mean, that's a huge bulk of the modern player base.
I
right?
would say just don't have a Modern Pro Tour. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
We don't enjoy Modern PPDQ season. They don't enjoy playing it. Like, cut it.
I
think-
cut the modern Pro Tour. Let's add a legacy one. We're all good.
Yeah, I think this last Modern Pro Tour just kind of really showcased that maybe the format isn't exactly what we're looking for PTs. Like, it didn't, like, nobody had fun watching it. Nobody, no one was like, oh man, I can't wait for the next Modern Pro Tour. It was just kind of a thing that happened.
Nobody's
and now,
ever like, I wish all the Pro Tours were modern.
Yeah, it's just like,
I think there are definitely people who have said that.
I'm sure that there are. I also
I mean,
wouldn't like all
nobody
the
we
Pro
know.
Tours to be standard, though. To be fair, like,
What?
don't you think that would be?
No, but I mean, there were
Pro
fun
Tours
things
standard?
before. They just didn't generate a lot of buzz.
But you and I like block a lot.
like
I'd
block
love
constructed.
That
Yeah,
that would be great. I
Yeah,
can't believe
I
they
think
didn't
that
go
was.
with
I think that was a great format. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, everybody I've ever talked to is like block constructed too. I just don't even know where the incentive was to be.
Well,
like,
they can't
let's
do
just
it
get rid
now.
of it. Yeah, I guess with the 2
Oh,
block sets is
right.
why.
Well, they could do something different. They could be like 2
They could
block
do-
constructed,
right,
right?
yeah.
Instead of like
Sure, yeah. If
Which
it
is
was
the same
like 4
4
sets, yeah, it'd be like small standard. I mean, that'd be the
Yeah.
issue, right? It'd be like small standard.
yeah, be slightly weird standard.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
They should just do extended. Let's bring extended back. I could go for some super standard.
I mean, I'm all about extended too. Mark Rosewater says that there are going to be more constructed formats to come out, so stay tuned for that.
Eternal, I hope.
I don't think that's not going to be a format.
So I do believe that at some point there's going to be a no reserve list, like anything else goes format. I hope it's not called Eternal because that's just a stupid name.
It would be confusing.
Be very
It would
confusing.
be extremely confusing, yeah, because people describe Vintage, Legacy, and sometimes Modern as Eternal formats, so it'd be like just...
Legacy minus BNR.
Right. Anyway.
Okay, let's go on to... Matt, you actually disagree with Manny, though. You actually think that it did need to be banned.
I don't know that it necessarily needed to be banned, but I do think that it made the format rather stagnant. I think that people would just, especially like if anybody played Blue and didn't play Modern before, they'd be like, oh, I'm just going to play Splinter Twin, because I like Blue, I like the things that this deck is doing.
Do you think that the bannings of things like Pod and Bloodbraid Elf and Deathrite Shaman did that, though, more than Splinter Twin existing?
Sure, yeah, I guess, when you ban everything of the equal power level till it becomes the best deck, right? Like,
right,
that's basically their strategy in all of Modern. They're like, ban everything until there's like one deck that's way better than all the others, and then ban that one.
Yeah, like Seething Song, like there's...
Right.
At one point it was, which do you play, Twin or Storm, right? And then it was, well, can't play Storm.
Then they made Storm like into a comedy, whereas like you just feel so...
Isn't it more like a tragedy? Probably not a comedy.
Well, it's like watching somebody try to play it is like somebody trying to walk across ice in dress shoes, where it's like, oh, I hope you get there, but you're probably not going to make it.
So yeah, I think that when I look at all of this, it's like, first of all, it's really fun to like look back at like, because there were standard formats where I like look back at decks and I'm like, ugh, people played that? We played that? Why did we play that?
Yeah, certainly never thought that about Zendikar Standard, though.
No, never. Never. I was like, man, what a sweet life we lived.
I think that, like, when we go
Turn one, Quest for the Holy Relic, go. Like, that'll go down in my memory banks forever.
Yeah. I feel like nobody's going to go back and look at Mono Blue Devotion, that one approach, where and be like, man, what a great deck.
I don't know if that's true. I might go back and like look at Mono Blue is one that I think
a lot of people
I think that
remember
you'll go
that
back and be
deck
like, man,
fondly.
Frostburn weird. What a card.
I mean, that deck was a blast to play, but like there wasn't a good
great
card
deck,
in it.
though, yeah.
I mean, it didn't need one, right?
Thassa God of the Sea is a great card.
Yeah, the Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx is like
Sure.
The deck that won the Pro Tour wasn't even playing that.
Yeah, I don't think most of the Mono Blue decks were playing it towards the end either.
Yeah, but
And it was only the then Team Star City games forever after Team Channel Fireball Pantheon.
Yeah.
well, that team's now like TCG player, but
Oh, the people that were on the team, but the team itself devolved into
Sure.
Channel Fireball the Pantheon.
Yeah.
we what did we learn from this? So I wrote down a few things. The first thing is to keep an open mind. The number of people that were like, Splinter Twin can't work, like, it's just a bad enchantment on a bad creature, like, it's whatever.
It's an aura that costs 4 mana.
Yeah, there were certainly some naysayers about it. And
All of us were
good reason.
naysayers.
Yeah.
Just keep an open mind about things. Fate Stitcher, like, broke Modern for a weekend. Like, anything can happen, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Testing is important. If you had never played against this deck, you were gonna lose to it. So, playtest more. Like, I would have lost to Splinter Twin every time if I had never playtested against it. And in Standard. And it's important. Like,
It's especially important to test against decks that are a little bit more not what you're used to playing against. Like testing against the mid-range decks that are just like good cards all the time is like good. You should be playing Magic and you should learn how to play against these decks, but it's not going to be as important as playing against something that's completely off the beaten path, like Rally or Splinter Twin or something where you have to interact very differently.
yeah. So don't forget to do your job and like do your homework and play some matches of Magic. The last one is innovation. Like, these decks like were so different from each other. You know, like one of them's this Inferno Titan Splinter Twin deck. One of them's this like this straight combo deck. One of them's Twin Pod, Twin Blade, Tarmo Twin. Like, these decks are so different from each other, and they all like did well at events. So, in your job of keeping an open mind, like, maybe you can break it. Like,
And
yeah,
even you, Manny.
I look at you, Manny.
Even you.
He pointed at himself. He's like,
Yeah.
I could do it.
I could do it.
You could. So keep all those things in mind. Like, I'm always gonna probably have like a really soft spot in my heart for Deceiver Exarch and like kind of what it did. I mean, I played it in Rug Pod, I played it in Twin Pod, I played it in Bant Pod.
A lot of pods.
Yeah. I don't know that I ever played Splinter Twin, like straight Splinter Twin in an event. I mean, I playtested tons of it, but like...
Well, and like, this deck also... So I always felt like Splinter Twin was always like... It was always my second choice for every Modern event I ever played in, it felt like. It was always like, oh, either play this or Splinter Twin.
You were so wrong. That should have been first.
Yeah. And
you should have been like, why should I not play Splinter Twin?
Right, and I only actually played Splinter Twin once, because it always felt like it would be available, where I was always like... But then just all of a sudden it wasn't. And I was like, man, I should have played Splinter Twin so many times.
Yeah, I think I'll always look back and like just learning to keep an open mind. Matt will always remember the times that he got to play Jace the Mind Sculptor and Splinter Twin in the same event.
Yep, pretty good times.
But yeah, anything else anyone has to say? Like, man, like it's only been like a month and we're already like reminiscing the fall of
back in the good days.
Yeah. Manny?
Yeah, I mean, I miss tapping out and losing like a chump. I wish it was back.
I wish I could lose that way again!
I wish I didn't have to worry about turn 2 Reality Smashers and like 19 Eldrazi Mimics and other stupid things.
Alright, well, that's it for this week. You can join our clan on MTGO by messaging me on MTGO at Spencer13Dev, D-E-V. You can message Quinn at Earthstripe, URTHSTRYP.
Oh my gosh, you did it without me. I'm so proud of you.
You can message, the clan is growing a little bit. We will be updating the Patreon page as soon as possible. We just have to have time to like sit down and really like, we're giving so much of it away for free that we wanted to be paid for that we like now have to come up with new benefits.
Idiots.
But yeah. The next goal is a podcast episode, so at $150 a month we'll be giving out an episode just to the patrons of the show. Don't forget that you can find me on Facebook at Spencer Stephen Howland or on Twitter at Spencer13H. You can find Manny at
Manny on Twitter, Manny_CCMTG, or on Facebook, Manuel Merez.
You can find the podcast at CCMTG or join the Constructive Criticism Facebook group, or just like us on Facebook. So... Matt, where can people find you if they want to talk to you about all their love for Stoneforge Mystery?
Nobody wants to talk to Matt.
You can all thank me for breaking the Modern format as well while you're at it. No. You can find me...
We gave you credit for that last week.
I listened to some of the podcasts. I couldn't find that part, but...
I mean, we like, it was like a 10-minute segment.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
We also said Andrew Tandrum was cute, though, so...
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. He's kind of a dreamboat, so... Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at TheWitchKling, or you can find me on Facebook... just my first and last name. So,
Casey?
You can find me on Facebook, Casey Tuna Bloodworth, or Twitter at CC Bloodthirst.
Awesome.
do you know how many times I've thought that your middle name was Tuna? Like,
Yeah.
I forget that, like, all the time.
You forget that his middle name is not Tuna?
Yeah.
I asked him about it, but he won't tell me. I don't know why it's there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you about it after the show.
That's what you always say.
Not show appropriate.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll share it with the Facebook.
Anyway. So... Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a review if you get the chance. And shout out to Tim H. He's one of the podcast listeners. He took 12th at the GP today. What?
I was just going to say, yeah, like, dudes did amazing. We're all, like, way proud of him.
Crushed it with Black Red Dragons. Huge group of people rooting for him. His goal this year was to get his first pro point, and he got it today. And
super awesome. That's such a, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations to him, working hard, like, shooting his Black Red Dragons list and getting in there. So, and then I just want to give a shout out to, like, the whole Facebook group. I wrote this earlier today while I was on Painkillers, so I'm going to try and read it, and hopefully it doesn't sound insane. But...
This is where the crash comes.
No, my throat just hurts from the tube still. They put in it. Jerks.
Sounds painful.
Yeah, saving your life. What jerks? What buttholes?
This was inconsiderate.
Doctors.
I can't believe they went to the trouble to save your life.
Okay, so I put this is what I wrote, and I just wanted to kind of share it with people who aren't in the Facebook group. But it kind of just goes for like the Twitter community, the people who reach out to us on Reddit and email and things like that. But I said it brings me close to tears, the kind of community that I've created here with constructive criticism. On episode 13, we had a show with John Finkel where we talked about surrounding yourself with greatness. Later on in the cast, so later episodes down the line, I came to the conclusion that one of the most important things in Magic is surrounding yourself with similar-minded people. I can honestly say that this group, the people that we have around us, they do so much to lift each other and help one another in the quest for # always improving. It's so easy to think that the other person is, quote, just wrong, or isn't as good as you because they think a certain card is better or worse than you do. But instead of getting that way, we have a group that consistently tries to be better than they were the day before and help others along the way also. There are many times where I don't agree with somebody about something that is said, but I never feel like it's an argument, and I never feel like an argument is about to break out. Instead, they give their point of view, and they do what they can to learn from the experience. It's so different from other experiences I've had on the internet, whether it's Reddit or other terrible Facebook groups where it's just fighting and insulting and it's a horrible thing. I can't believe the number of always improving moments that are posted and the support and love that the listeners show each other. Thank you, everybody, and for what you bring, and please let me know if there's anything I can ever personally do to help you grow as a person or a Magic player. I actually love the Facebook group a lot, and it was really cool. This to see so many people supporting Tim and just how much they support each other.
It's awesome.
They really care if they're top beating GPTs or winning their FNMs or whatever it is that they're doing. Whether it's all the way down to FNM all the way up to taking 12th at a GP.
For sure,
they're really excited for each other and they really want everyone to succeed in that group, and that is so different than the other Facebook groups we're in.
Whenever I see a post in that group, it always feels like I'm in an episode of Cheers where everybody, even though these people are from all over the world, they all know each other. They know how's your Black Red Dragons doing? It's how's your kids doing? It's a very tight-knit community, which I really love.
It's really awesome. I've never seen on an internet group somebody not insult somebody's intelligence or or derogatory terms about their sexuality. I've never seen that once. It's amazing. It's not even the internet. It's awesome.
It's that mindset of always improving and I don't know. I just can't believe that this is something that I created, and I just want to thank everybody that's in the group. And if you're not in the group, we have people that have created Facebook accounts just to join this group. If you do that, just message me on Facebook. Let me know that that's what you're doing, because I'm unlikely to add you.
Yeah, we think you might be a bot.
Yeah. So
apparently, ISIS tried to do some recruiting on there not too long ago.
You got to be vigilant.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So if you haven't joined that group, join it. It's the best place on the internet for me right now, and it makes me super happy to see all the time. So, none of these nerds have any shout-outs unless somebody.
I do have one. Yeah, Scott Porowski. Thank you for my shrine. I want to say that's a good start, and we'll build up from there.
And this is also something that's happened since we talked about it. But shout out to Owen Turtenwald for becoming a 4-time Grand Prix champion.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Taking it down with Rally of the Ancestors.
Oh, I was gonna say something to Owen today. Owen is the best Magic player ever, right?
Obviously.
Not even right now. I think he might actually just be the best ever.
That's where it's hard, right?
Because it's so much harder to win now than it was when Kai was doing it.
There's a lot more people playing.
It's so hard to be giving him this much credit, though. He's only got 3 Pro Tour top 8s. I think he's the best Magic player right now, for sure, but...
So, that's saying 1 Pro Tour top 8 now is worth 4, 10 years ago, or whatever.
Even then, Finkel's beating him, right? Even if that were the case.
That's very
Finkel's
fair.
got 14 Pro Tour top 8s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. With 3 wins. Owen is very good, and his play is technically, very close to perfect.
I don't know, and that's the thing. That's what I was saying is, when I watch John play, it's wow, John Finkel is, really good at Magic.
Yeah.
But when I watch Owen play, I'm man, I'm really bad at Magic.
I agree. I had that feeling today watching him play Rally. I was well, I don't even know how to play this deck, so...
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. It's super weird with Owen. It's, very calculated. Occasionally, if you look back at, the great, historic players, you'll see something like a stroke of genius where it's wow, I don't even know, how you would have the guts to make a play like that. Where with Owen, it's super precise technical play.
What you're trying to say is he channels the Terminator.
Yes.
Cool.
All
That's
right.
exactly what I'm saying.
Well, shout out to Owen. We all think you're great. All right. Hashtag Would That Be Good is our Twitter outreach program. Every week you can tweet with the hashtag Would That Be
Wait,
Good.
which one is it? It's not always improving.
Nope.
It's the other one.
Hashtag Would That Be Good.
Why does the other one have a hashtag then if we never use the hashtag?
We do.
It's
We
complicated,
do?
Manny.
Oh my gosh. I'll never...
One of them's for questions, and one of them is for ways that you've improved in Magic.
One of them is for bragging. The other one is for asking questions.
But either way, they both go on Twitter.
I mean, they can.
Okay. I'm just gonna start, like, combining my brags with my questions.
Okay.
Sweet.
Matt says MTGO sealed leaks hashtag Would That Be Good. I actually jumped up and down cheering when I saw sealed leaks were coming to MTGO. I'm really excited about it.
You were still fresh and out of surgery at this point, and you should not be jumping up and down.
I was actually right before I went into the surgery when this was announced.
Oh, and then you were like, "Oh, I need to go to the doctor." Sure.
Actually, I hurt really bad right now. Like, really
sorry.
bad. No, it's okay. Vinny Gorman says, oh, Matt, what do you think about sealed leaks?
Yeah, it seems exciting to me. I mean, I wish that there were a way to do draft leagues, but
that'd be hard.
sealed is acceptable.
Yeah. I mean, you just could play, like, more... The thing that I like about it is I can play more limited matches at, like, times when I can play Magic. Because, like, the problem with drafts is, like, you have to, like, set apart, like, a part of your day to play draft, right? And I love limited Magic, like, more than constructed Magic. And now I'll just get to play more limited Magic. I mean, I'm really excited about it.
Yep.
Well, I don't get to draft as much. I mean, I guess I could probably draft the same amount, but I don't know. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and it's really cool and something that was missing from leagues, so it's a really great addition.
Yeah, I think it's basically impossible for them to add something that's gonna make the game worse without like taking something away. You know what I mean? If they're just strictly adding stuff, that's just value, right?
Yeah.
See, Momir leagues now. We're in business.
Yeah. I mean, assuming it doesn't like split players' attentions, right? Like you need things to fire. But
LMAO, that made my day. Affinity Eldrazi, hashtag Would That Be Good? I don't know.
not terribly surprising. So
Whatever.
Yeah, it was. If you look at like the
it was a thread.
conversation, it was a joke. It's not like a real thing that exists.
Yeah, it's a thread that was like a picture of MTGO stats,
I see.
pictures of like
Yeah, it was
blue,
like blue, red
white.
Eldrazi, blue, mono blue,
yeah
Eldrazi,
every
green, red
color
Eldrazi.
combination, Eldrazi Tron, and then somebody's like Affinity Eldrazi, and it's like, well,
I see. I thought that they were saying Affinity versus Eldrazi, like the finals or whatever.
no.
I see.
like
They're
it-
talking
like
about
what-
a deck
what-
called
like-
Affinity Eldrazi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think that would be a thing. I don't even know why we call Affinity. I hate the name robots, so I do it because I hate the name robots.
Well,
Exactly.
if you had to pick a name for it, what would it be? Right? Like, it's just there, and it sounds fine. You wouldn't be like,
Five-color
You
Terminators.
spend a lot of time thinking about the names of Magic decks.
so much.
You guys are the ones that talk about it longer. I just said I don't like the name.
It's because they
I think
bother you, and I
well-
want to solve it once and for
Yeah,
all and
I
get
think-
rid
I
of this
think
problem.
The only reason I even brought up the first one was because you were calling it something different than what everybody else calls it, and I wanted
That's
to make sure
because
the listeners
everybody
know
else
what
calls it
was.
something different.
Everyone
Every
calls it-
single person calls it Mardu Green. You know, like
Yeah.
they call it Mardu Green.
Obs on
Abzan
red.
Today on
Jund-
coverage, they
Jund
called it
White.
Jund White, and it's like let's call it what it was called. Or Dark Naya is another one that they called it, and it's like this deck already had a deck name. Why are we changing the deck name?
Because it's fun.
I don't know. Anyway, more deck name conversations.
Oh, yeah, Affinity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really.
Artifacts.
I don't really even like
Seems
Affinity, so I don't really care if Eldrazi and Affinity become one deck.
It doesn't feel functional. Like, how are you ever going to have enough, like, a meaningful amount of artifacts if you're playing Thought on Seers and...
Yeah, that's my thought. Like, those cranial platings get real bad. I mean, we can just play Ghost Fireblaze, I don't know.
I mean,
it doesn't seem great.
feels like a different thing at some point.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound particularly good.
Your
but,
Glimmer Voids seem poor in this deck, too.
I mean, you could do it in Legacy, perhaps, with the Soul Lands, right? Like, I mean, the Affinity decks in Legacy already play, like, Ancient Tombs and stuff like that, so it's not that hard to believe that you could just, like, play a couple Thought Knot Seers and some Reality Smashers at the top end of your Affinity deck.
Sure.
Yeah. Still doesn't
Building-
seem great.
Building
It
a
doesn't seem
shrine
good,
to
but I'm saying
appease
it
the
could.
fickle god that is Manny CCMTG's ego. Hashtag would that be good? Obviously not.
Obviously, it's the best.
Shame on you.
Yeah.
Don't encourage this behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, if nobody stops me, I will try to form a cult.
If nobody stops.
Sounds
What?
Like sounds like you're at 1 and counting.
That's where you start.
Yeah, you
Gotta start somewhere.
The ball has begun to roll.
It's just word of mouth from that point.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you guys all next week, and yeah, have a great day.
See ya.
See ya.
Magic, magic,